Hi everyone, my needle drops. Anthony Fantano, the internet's busiest music nerd here. And it's time for a review of the new Mac Miller LP Blue Slide Park. This kid's a Pittsburgh rapper. This is his full-length debut album after a series of some pretty decent mixtapes. And I'm not really sure why, but this kid seems to have a ton of fans, but a lot of haters. People hate this kid. And while I don't really quite get the fanatic love, I don't get the insane hatred either. I mean, I kind of consider myself middle of the road, maybe a casual Mac Miller fan. A lot of Mac Miller's older material to me is just kind of from the heart hip-hop, kind of painting a fun and silly picture of this suburban dope-smoking kid who's very nice and approachable, likes to party, and has a dream. That's kind of a subject and a style that hasn't fared all that well in hip-hop. The most recent character besides Mac Miller to kind of do a similar thing is Azure Roth, when he put out that album Asleep in the Bread Aisle in 2009. And yeah, the rapping and the lyricism on that album is pretty average. It's pretty bad sometimes too, but there was a bigger issue with what people had beef with in regards to that album, and I think it was kind of a problem of trust. I kind of felt like that album was a label manufactured trick to kind of get pot-smoking, Xbox-playing, keg-standing college kids to buy a rap CD. Mac Miller, on the other hand, that question of authenticity is not there. Mac Miller is actually that guy. And to be blunt about it, I'm not really big on this album either. For me, the biggest issue on this thing is that, this is a full-length debut official album. I kind of expected to be wowed a little bit, but his lyricism and his flow haven't really progressed, matured, anything. This album is just kind of loaded with fun, shallow, slightly egotistical party pop rap that is peppered with, cultural references. It's not terrible, but I'm not really a fan, and it's not so much what Mac Miller says, but kind of how he says it. Because in a way, Mac Miller kind of reminds me of the Beastie Boys when they first came out. They both definitely cater to a similar demographic, and they shared lyrics about parties and getting wasted, but at the end of the day, I think when you kind of dug below the surface of the Beastie Boys, there was kind of this tongue-in-cheek thing about them, where they were very well aware that what they were doing was ridiculous. I don't really get that vibe with Mac Miller, especially on this album. Because on this LP, he seriously tries to create a song where he puts together the soundtrack for the park where he used to hang out at night and get high. And there's even police whoop whoop kind of going on and off. Oh no, the police are here and we're hanging out at a playground getting high. It's kind of embarrassing. The only thing that I think has really changed about this album lyrically is just the story, the narrative, just the things that Mac Miller is rapping about. And, at first this kid kind of came off as being very hungry and looking for fame, but that's gone now. And the discussion has turned to dealing with that fame, dealing with haters, dealing with fans, dealing with the money, dealing with the popularity, just dealing with it, and constantly assuring me and his fans that he isn't changed, he ain't changing, nothing's changed, he's still the same guy. And that may very well be true, but I don't care. I would rather Mac Miller change and then make an interesting album than not change and just keep making the same albums over and over and over again. The beats on this thing, I think, are really where things kind of go downhill. And I'm really surprised at that, because most of the beat choices on his last mixtape were pretty good. I kind of welcomed that mixtape because it moved away from the silly and sugary beats I was hearing on Kids, that I was hearing on Best Day Ever. Tracks like The Spins and Senior Skip Day that kind of made me cringe. Blue Slide Park, by comparison, is like 50% sugary candy cane nonsense. It gets worse on the track Up All Night, where you've got this like pop punk rock drum beat mixed together with these Walkin' on Sunshine piano chords. It sounds like a party song for kids who still have a curfew. The heavy bass hits on Smile Back and My Team kind of feel like Young Money beats or something. And the hooks on tracks like Gold and Diamonds and Under the Weather are so sweet. They kind of feel like trying to swallow an entire sleeve of Sour Patch Kids without chewing. It just doesn't even feel like hip-hop at this point. It just kind of feels like pop instrumentals, but with rapping over them. The only thing that's really appealing about Mac Miller is his story, his fun personality, and his kind of underdog image. Well, that's appealing depending on who you are. There are some decent Clams Casino beats on here, and the track Party on Fifth Ave kind of cuts out the horn phrase from Let Me Clear My Throat and then puts it over this more like club beat. It's kind of an interesting reimagined version. But overall, I just could not really sit through this thing. It was kind of redundant. It just felt a little pointless in that Mac Miller wasn't really saying anything a lot of the time. He was just kind of dropping mediocre punchlines left and right. And when he wasn't doing that, he was kind of telling his personal story about dealing with fame, and that really didn't interest me. I see it being interesting to fans, to people who have watched him carry on this far. So I'm kind of feeling like a strong 4 to a light 5 on this. But what do you think of this thing? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why? And what should I review next? Anthony Fantano, Mac Miller, forever.